What if I told you that one of the most powerful cultural revolutions in American history began in just a few crowded city blocks? Not with politicians, not with billionaires, but with poets, musicians, barbers, church choirs, and ordinary families fighting to be seen. Today, we're stepping into Harlem, not the Harlem you think you know, but the Harlem most history books barely touch. Long before Harlem became a global symbol of Black culture, it wasn't even built for Black residents. In the late 1800s, Harlem was designed as an upscale white neighborhood. Elegant brownstones, wide boulevards, and ambitious real estate projects were meant to attract wealthy New Yorkers escaping crowded downtown Manhattan. But a financial panic in 1893 caused a real estate crash. Developers were desperate. Apartments stood empty. That desperation quietly opened the door to one of the most important migrations in American history. In the early 1900s, African American families, many moving north during the Great Migration to escape racial terror in the South, began settling in Harlem. Landlords who had previously refused Black tenants suddenly changed their rules when profits were at risk. By 1920, Harlem had become the largest Black urban community in the United States. But here's something many people didn't realize. Harlem wasn't just a place people moved to. It was a place people reinvented themselves. Out of struggle came something extraordinary, the Harlem Renaissance. Between the 1920s and early 1930s, Harlem became the cultural capital of Black America. Writers like Langston Hughes captured the rhythm of Black life in poems that still echo today. Zora Neale Hurston preserved Southern Black folklore with pride and dignity at a time when mainstream America dismissed it. And philosopher Oling Locke called it the new Negro movement, a rebirth of identity and intellectual power. But the Renaissance wasn't just literature. It had a soundtrack. At night, the streets vibrated with jazz pouring out of legendary venues like the Apollo Theater and the Cotton Club. Here's the twist most people didn't talk about. The Cotton Club was famous for showcasing Black performers, but it only allowed white customers inside. Black artists created the magic. White audiences consumed it. That contradiction defined much of Harlem's early fame. One true story that captures Harlem's spirit is about a teenage girl named Ella Fitzgerald. In 1934, she was just 17 years old, homeless, shy, and nervous. She entered amateur night at the Apollo Theater intending to dance. At the last minute, terrified she couldn't compete with the dancers before her, she decided to sing instead. That spontaneous decision launched one of the greatest jazz careers in history. That night in Harlem changed her life and American music forever. But Harlem's story isn't just triumph. It's also tension. In 1935, frustration over economic inequality and police brutality erupted into the Harlem Riot. It shocked the city and shattered the illusion that the Renaissance had solved everything. Despite cultural brilliance, many residents still faced overcrowded housing, unemployment, and systemic discrimination. Then came the Great Depression. Then World War II. After the war, Harlem experienced another transformation. Middle-class Black families began moving to other neighborhoods as opportunities slowly expanded. At the same time, discriminatory policies like redlining limited investment in Harlem. Buildings deteriorated. Poverty increased. By the 1960s and 70s, Harlem was often portrayed in the media as a symbol of urban decline. But here's what outsiders misunderstood. Harlem never lost its soul. During the Civil Rights Movement, Harlem became a powerful center of political activism. Malcolm X delivered electrifying speeches in Harlem that challenged America to confront its hypocrisy. On 125th Street, debates about identity, justice, and liberation filled barbershops, mosques, and street corners. There's another lesser-known moment. In 1964, a group of Harlem mothers organized protests against unsafe school conditions and overcrowding. They didn't have political titles. They weren't famous. but they shut down schools and forced the city to listen. Harlem's history, isn't only shaped by icons, it's shaped by everyday courage. And then, something unexpected happened. In the 1990s and 2000s, Harlem began changing again. Crime rates dropped. New businesses moved in. Historic brownstones were restored. Major institutions like the Studio Museum in Harlem helped preserve and promote Black art globally. But this rebirth came with a complicated word: gentrification. As property values rose, many longtime residents struggled with increasing rents. New cafes replaced old corner stores. The question became, can Harlem evolve without losing its identity? What many people don't know is that Harlem has always been evolving. Even during the Renaissance, Caribbean immigrants played a major role in shaping its culture. Leaders like Marcus Garvey built massive followings in Harlem through the Universal Negro Improvement Association, promoting Black pride and global unity years before the Civil Rights Movement gained national momentum. And here's something surprising. Harlem wasn't always majority Black. In the 1800s, it was home to Dutch farmers. The name Harlem itself comes from Haarlem in the Netherlands. The neighborhood you see today is layered: Dutch roots, Jewish communities in the early 1900s, African-American migration, Caribbean influence, Latino culture, all woven together. Even hip-hop, though born in the Bronx, found a powerful voice in Harlem. Artists and entrepreneurs from Harlem helped shape fashion, street culture, and business in ways that influence global trends today. Yet, beyond the headlines and cultural milestones, Harlem's most powerful story is about resilience. Imagine arriving in New York in 1915 with little money, escaping violence in the South, stepping into a neighborhood buzzing with music and debate. Imagine being told by society that you are invisible and responding by creating art so powerful the world cannot ignore you. That's Harlem. It's a place where a nervous teenager became Ella Fitzgerald, where poets transformed pain into pride, where activists demanded dignity, where ordinary families built extraordinary legacies inside brick brownstones. When you walk down 125th Street today, you're not just walking through a neighborhood. You're walking through layers of revolution, cultural, political, artistic. Harlem teaches us something profound. When people are pushed to the margins, they don't always disappear. Sometimes, they create movements that redefine the center. And maybe that's the real untold history of Harlem. Not just that it produced legends, not just that it survived hardship, but that again and again, when the world underestimated it, Harlem answered with creativity, courage, and an unbreakable sense of identity. So the next time you hear the word Harlem, don't just think of a location on a map. Think of a heartbeat, a rhythm that refused to fade, a neighborhood that turned struggle into symphony, and a community that against every odd kept rising.